Hello. So in my last video, I kind of went over like how I ended up meeting this person and just kind of the beginning of the relationship in general and sort of how things started, how I ended up becoming complacent and, slowly became blind to the things that were happening around me. That is not to say that in the beginning there were not signs or red flags that I could have been, aware of had I been aware in general, right? Like, had I known that this type of person existed in the first place, and that there is a need to be aware and protected. So I kind of want to go over some of that because not only am I here to tell my story, but more importantly, I'm here for people to kind of learn from what I didn't know was going on, to see where I went wrong, to prevent these things from happening to me again. But hopefully, anyone who happens to be out there following, maybe you can identify these things going on with you personally now and begin to, either combat or prepare yourself or just get away before you get too deep, because you never know if it's just a standard run-of-the-mill narcissist who just really loves themselves more than anyone else or hates themselves ultimately, or if you're dealing with someone who has other motives, like in my instance, somebody who thought that there may be some generational wealth to get their hands on. This person researched me after, my grandfather passed away and after meeting me, and, kind of figured out who I was and who I came from, and thought there was something to be had there by sort of pulling a Britney on me, right? Like, make me seem crazy, either get me addicted to drugs, make me lose my mind, get married to me, and hopefully then, gain some sort of conservatorship or whatever the case may be. That was the ultimate goal for my abuser. And that is very much what he was, an abuser, regardless. Not everybody's going to be dealing with somebody that serious, but I was. You never know, so it's good to just get out before you ever have to find out, right? So that's the point. So, I mentioned there were like a few instances where there was like an infection of some sort, bacterial. We played out in the woods a lot, so and by play I mean like hanging out. Like we would go like explore and do all kinds of things. Like our relationship did have a lot of normalcy to it. That's why you're there, right? It's not all hell. So it seemed practical that, you might get sick. Like, you might need an antibiotic every now and then. Maybe I should have questioned those things a little more, but it is what it is. I remember when I first got to town, though, into West Virginia, I did own a business. It was taking off. It was doing pretty well. It was self-sufficient. So I was referred to a little cafe in town where, I could go get a coffee, hang out, use the Wi-Fi, and see people come and go, introduce myself, and maybe like hear the buzz about town, right? Embed myself, right? Become an involved citizen of the community, right? Seemed practical to me, so I go there. Lovely place, lots of little hipsters and stuff coming in and out, cool people. Particularly the barista. She was very cool. She was a very interesting person. She shared her story of her experience through recovery from narcotic abuse. Very prevalent these days, particularly in West Virginia. Almost everybody has a story of their personal struggles with abuse or addiction, or people very close to them. So her story was fascinating to me. She seemed like a very sweet girl. So I was very excited when I came home at the end of the day and to talk about my day and say, hey, this is my new friend that I think is very fascinating. I got her number. Like, I'd love to hang out with her sometime. She seems super cool. It is a small town. So what happens next? I just blew off. No big deal. But, oh no. Anyone but her. Watch out. She's a thief. She's an addict. I said, yeah, she shared her story. No judgment. Like, it happens. People, we all make mistakes, right? We all have our vices. That's not a disqualifier for me for friendship. But whatever. Apparently, he had had a personal interaction with this person that didn't go well. So I took that as it was. I took his word for it, and I said, okay, cool. Well, I'll just keep this person on check. Maybe I'll just find another cafe to go to, so I don't have to like have a conflict with someone brand new. And that's what I did. Never asked any other questions. There were several other people I would meet in the coming months who also were shady. I started to realize, like, wait a minute now. I do live in a town where a lot of people are struggling with this issue. We know when people are dealing with addiction, that they may associate with people who, lead them down paths that aren't really theirs, right? Like, we make mistakes. I said this already. Things happen. So for me to move forward in my new town with this jaded opinion of everyone around me didn't seem practical. But then enters the pandemic and everybody's shut down. We are all inside. So that issue just kind of like went to the wayside. Again, the pandemic was very fortunate, very lucky for my abuser, as a way to kind of really lock me in, have me not really remember or lose track of some of the things, these cycles that were happening in the background that I might have caught on to quicker. But nonetheless, if somebody is has a bad interaction or some weird story about every person in a small town or a large town, it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, if everyone that you come across has had some negative interaction with your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever's relevant to you, whatever resonates for you is what's important. But that is a red flag. Definitely question that. What is the one common denominator? Why do you have issues with all of these people would be a good question to ask, right? The other parts in my last video is I didn't sign a lease on my own place. I trapped myself right away. I made myself victim immediately by eliminating um any safety net, right? So I couldn't go home. Like, I couldn't just go to my own place at the end of the day when things were going crazy, as they would become down the road. Couldn't do that. That would require separating finances for me. That would require asking people for money so that I wouldn't have, money I could have paid right back, but like, nonetheless, because I couldn't just make certain moves without sounding too many alarms, right? When it was time for me to get away and I needed to rent a house and all of that. So like, just, keep your own space for a very long time until you have had a long time to explore everything this person tells you in every interaction. And I hate to say, like, hyper focus on every detail, but hyper focus on every detail for real. Like, everything is important. It all comes back in the end. And particularly when you get into gaslighting and manipulation and some of the things that I would later come in to deal with, like, being able to fall back on those details is going to be very important. So and so, why did you have an issue with this person last year when I introduced myself to them? What could it really be that maybe you did something wrong to this person and they called you out on it? Ask that person even. Like, it is what it is. It's not being a gossip to ask a question about your own partner, right? If my partner told me about this barista, what I should have actually done is gone to that cafe the next day and said, hey, you know, tell me about your interaction with so and so. You don't have to explain that that's your boyfriend or your girlfriend or anything. Find a way to do it tastefully, but like, ask that question. Ask it, please. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid of being a gossip. It is important to know. Everything is important when you share a life with somebody. Anyways, 10-minute limit on these things. There's more to come. I think I will, kind of like tell a little bit of my story and then follow up later with like a little breakdown like this. And please get involved, like ask me questions, respond. This is for everyone. It's not just me running my mouth. Thank you for listening.